is Basic, the Atari Days podcast.
Let's see, I got married in 84, and my brother-in-law had every single one of my games pirated. And I was like, what? You have all my games?
This is an interview episode of Antic, the Atari 8-Bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Mike Potter ported several Apple II games to the Atari 8-Bit computers for Crystalware, including Protector. He later developed 5 programs for Synapse: Protector, Protector 2, Chicken, Nautilus, and Shadow World, in a 1-year period with a combined sales of 93,000 copies. In this interview, we discuss Steve Hales and Ihor Wolosenko, both of whom I previously interviewed. This interview took place October 22nd, 2015, a day when I was apparently having some problems with my microphone, but Mike sounds great, and that's the important part.
I've listened to a few of your interviews. I really enjoy them. It's kind of fun having a little blast from the past. You know, it lasted a couple. Let's see, what was it, about a month ago? I actually pulled out my Atari 800. I have my original Atari 800 that I purchased. You know, $1,040. I remember it. Way back in 1980.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you do with it once you got it out of the cardboard box?
Well, I mean, like recently?
I mean, recently, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to see if my game still worked. And so, you know, I had the floppy drive, and I was amazed that everything worked.
Nice.
And I loaded up my games, and it was kind of like reliving the past, going back from the original Game Pack 1 that I had with NIM and what was that? Imperial Walker, which I'm sure would be like a copyright infringement way back when. And it was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. We've come a long way since then, that's for sure.
All right, so let's go back to before the beginning. Tell me the first time you saw an Atari machine. Tell me about when you got your Atari, kind of the prehistory before you started programming games. Well,
let's see. When I was a teenager, just in high school, we had the TRS-80 in high school. And so, that's my tinkering. We had I had a basic class in school, and we had paper tape machine as far as your reading device and storage device. So everybody was always playing around with these dots, throwing around dots, programming dots. And so I was part of what they called the freak bench, which was the dramies and drama people and the people just quite didn't fit into the normal. We had the jocks and the dramies, drama people, and so we had kind of a little crew. Steve Hales was part of that, and
I interviewed him yesterday.
Did you really? Oh, that's awesome. And so David Wilkins, if I remember right. Wilkinson, yeah. And Corey, I don't know if you know her. Anyways, we had a group of people, and we were always experimenting with things, and it was just a great time together. So my dad would take me to the Apple store. They had the Apple II, a computer store that was in Dublin. I lived in Livermore at the time. And so I would spend my days just at the Apple store, just tinkering with the Apple II. And so finally, I was able to get an Apple II. And so that was my beginnings in software design. And then the Atari came out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And so I got oh, wait a minute. So I moved up to Washington State. So I graduated from high school, moved to Washington State, and there was a computer store there. And I would spend my time in this computer store, and they just got the Atari computer. And so I actually got a job at the computer store. And so I didn't spend too much of my time selling products other than making computer software. A little bit, just tinkering with the machine. So I was able from the sales I did make to actually buy an Atari at that time. And so I just, all we had at that time was basically the kind of like a reference manual. Nobody's really designed anything too much, at that time. It was just a reference manual, peeks and pokes in machine language. And so just kind of poured through that and just learned all I could and just played with everything, we had a cassette drive as your storage device and 8K of memory. That was huge. Bumped it up to 16K, I think it was at one time. It was another $1,000, something like that. And the drive, anyways. So just started creating stuff, just doing things that nobody's, of course, just being a pioneer, nobody's done before. And so I started packaging my software. I recorded cassette tapes, got the labels, made some labels, and I'd go to the computer stores on consignment. And so I was Micro Mike back then. That was my name, and just started selling computer software, and then moved down to.
So you made this game pack that had it was all on cassette, I suppose. Imperial Walker, Nim, Gunfight, and Auto Racer.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would take that around to the computer stores and sell that.
How many did you sell? I mean, we're talking dozens?
Yeah, probably dozens. Because I had to produce them one by one on my cassette drive. And so it was, and a Ziploc bag, and a colored piece of paper as the manual.
Fancy.
Thing. And yeah, so very fancy, very. And so I moved down to Sunnyvale. And I did the same thing there, passing around to the computer stores down there. And there was, I think it was Creative Computing or something like that, down in Cupertino area. And John Bell from Crystalware also visited the store and saw my software. And so he says, he liked my package that I had. John created a whole bunch of software, a lot of adventures on the Apple II. And so, so it was pretty innovative for this time, and so he brought me on board to do porting, to translate from the Apple to the Atari. And so,
an employee or freelancing?
No, as I earned 30% commissions, which was pretty good. And so I think my dad, so when I went there and met with him, John gave me like $5,000 as kind of like upfront money. And I went to tell my dad, and he's like, "You're kidding. This is impossible. I work so hard for my money, and here, you're just a punk kid, and you're just, just made this $5,000 just like that off this, computer." Because, he never really thought this would actually turn into an actual life for me. And so that was fun. And so I did, what was it? Like Galactic Quest, House of Usher, Fantasyland, Sands of Mars, Beneath the Pyramids.
And these were already existing games
3.
on the Apple that you were porting to the Atari.
Yeah, up until like I did. Okay, so World War III, Crystal, Little Crystal, Laser Wars, and Waterloo 2. Okay, yeah. So I did all those in 5 months time. So I ported all those in really, really quick. And so, but Protector was something I did. I did it in a week. I did Protector.
In a week?
In a week. I did not sleep. When I delivered it in Gilmore, drove down, I slept for like 2 days after that. I mean, it was an intense project. And, yeah, so that was a very, that was 1981 that I did all that. And so it was exciting. I mean, that's all I did was just work. And they did really well. They actually, sales were very good. They were moving up. He started in one of his houses and got another house, and so he was doing really well off the software. And I wasn't doing too bad. I was probably making $100,000. Not too bad for. How old was I? 2015. Okay, so it was 34 years ago.
Yeah.
That it's not too bad for a 19-year-old. There we go. So I was 19, right out of high school.
And you're pulling down $100K.
Pulling down $100K, and
making porting games, basically.
Porting games, yeah. And so I kind of questioned my royalties.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that things were selling a lot more than I was seeing. And so he let me go at that time, and just said that I can't trust you or something like that.
Wow.
So he let me go. And
do you think he was, in retrospect, do you think you were getting stiffed?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't prove anything, and I don't want to go there. But that's. But he gave me the rights back to Protector. So that was kind of interesting.
So before we move on, so you're a punk kid. You're 19. You're 20 years old. You have all this money. What'd you do with it? Did you buy a house, or did you invest it wisely, or did you spend it on on cars and girls, or what'd you do?
Well, actually, so I moved back up to Washington, and I did buy a house, but at that time the interest rates were 12% for a house. And so I did buy a car, and then I bought another car, and then I bought a three-wheeler thing, and then I needed a truck to actually put that in. So I did have a lot of toys. And so, that was definitely an interesting, very interesting time. But then, it got even better with Synapse. So after getting the products Protector back, I created a Protector 2, which took me, I cleaned up all the bugs. And I don't even remember how I got introduced to. I remember Ihor running his business out of his apartment. At the time, he had an apartment, and selling File Manager there. He had File Manager, a couple products that he had, and I just, it was really nice, really good meeting him. and that was kind of, I showed him the Protector, and he liked it, so they started to market it, and it did really well. It did really well for them. It was top of the charts. What was that? I don't remember the charts, but then I did Chicken and Nautilus and Shadow World, and at the time I was, was that 1992 and 93.
82.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 82 and 83. And so, they really started to move. I mean, they moved into a larger house, and then they moved into a huge office building, and there I introduced Steve Hales to them, and he started doing some really good stuff with them too. And then I came back up to Washington and kind of enjoying my money and my life, and so that was very good. So
I saw that you said that you developed your 5 Synapse games, Protector and Protector 2, Chicken, Nautilus, and Shadow World, in a year.
Yeah. Let's see. Protector 2 in 82, Chicken in 82, Nautilus in 83, and Shadow World in 83. Yeah. So back then, it was the games were pretty much single person projects. You didn't have a team of people, as you definitely do today, or even a couple of years after that. Synapse started getting more of a, somebody would work on sound, and somebody would work on graphics, and somebody else would work on the programming. But back then it was just the solo projects.
Protector 2, on a personal note, was on the first disc of pirated games that I ever received when I was a kid. It had Protector 2 on it. So, sorry and thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I let's see, I got married in 84, and my brother-in-law had every single one of my games pirated. And I was like, what? You have all my games? And so that was kind of, what was it, 93 or 94, that the game market died, basically, for the Atari.
84, yeah.
Yeah, and so, it's kind of like, yep, piracy got us, but, yeah. So that was a really kind of hard time for me personally, too, because, you collect all these toys, and you collect all these things, and then the income all dries up, and then you're kind of left with the aftermath. And so I kind of learned to live below my means after that point. I kind of learned a lesson, and that is, don't live about, if you are making great money, be smart about it, and don't go wild like I did, and live above your means, because especially in this industry, it's always up and down, or I guess that's true in any industry, but so you're going to have a great time, and when you do, just live below your means, and so now my philosophy has always been, pay everything, even if you can get a house, pay for it.
You're churning out these games for Synapse, and things are going well. And basically, did you leave when Synapse was started to go down and was sold to Broderbund and all that happened?
Yeah, I left before that time. So that was, boy, I don't know when they sold to. Do you know when they sold to Broderbund?
Not offhand.
Yeah. So I was already living up in Washington at that time. I wasn't really involved, because they started getting into the, he'd have more employees. I wasn't really involved in that process or worked there at the time. I've always been a contract programmer with him, not an employee. And so that worked out. That worked out well for me until, it all kind of blew apart.
Please don't take this as a criticism or anything. I was reviewing your games before we talked. I've played them all before, and I was looking at them on YouTube and things, and I felt like technically your games are all over the map. Protector 2 is one of my favorites, and it's a fast scroller, and it's a lot of fun, a lot going on. And then then there's Chicken, which maybe not your best work in my opinion.
Well, actually, the ladies like that one. The women really enjoyed Chicken, and it was actually a very well received game. Actually, yeah. So, but again, it was these are programs that were knocked out. Basically, they were innovative in ways. Like Nautilus, I think, was one of the very few, or even I don't know. Like dual scrolling machine, 2-player dual scrolling. But I think probably Shadow World's probably the most advanced game that I had. It was that was a dual scrolling game, 2-player. And a lot of action on that one. Have you tried that one? Have you played that very much?
I don't think so. I'm sure I played it back in the day, but I don't really have a clear memory of it. I didn't review. Except for YouTube today.
Yeah, take a look at that one. It's on. Somebody's playing that one on YouTube. It's kind of fun watching people. I was kind of like, I didn't go back to that time for the longest period. And then just this past year, I decided to look on YouTube, and there were people playing my games. It's like, oh, it's on YouTube, and people are playing. That's kind of weird. It's kind of fun to see.
It is, yeah. I interviewed someone recently who had done 3 games and had no way, didn't know they were on YouTube. And I said at the end of her interview, go on YouTube and look at them. And then she did, and then the next day she calls me back. She's like, I remember all this stuff now. I've seen these games, and it's like brought back these neurons, and let's talk some more. So we talked for another half an hour, of stories that just came from watching, little bits fly around on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Shadow World. It's pretty. I like it. Look, craggy mountains and everything.
Yeah.
So tell me a story. Tell me a story about the Atari Days. Someone you met, or something, a problem that happened, or something that sticks in your mind.
Boy, I just remember sitting at just working. It was just kind of a race against time on getting this stuff out there and being like a pioneer in a way. There really weren't that many programmers at that time. People working on software for the Atari. There wasn't any Google or anything like that you could actually, get ideas and see what other people are doing and incorporate that into your software. And so everything that you created, the sound, just trying to develop the sound or the colors, doing like on Shadow World with that color display at the very beginning. That was kind of, it's like, wow, I remember, Steve and I would always have, look what I just did. We'd spend a lot of time, together and just kind of experiment with different things. He was doing things with sound. He's always been like into music, and so, but also doing programming too. But actually, so doing those, like I said, I just had a reference manual to work on, and the machine language, working with machine language, and also did the original stuff in BASIC. Snake and Nim, and the very first ones were done in BASIC. Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of work, just spending a lot of time in front of that computer and that TV set. Nothing crazy. I mean, you don't really get crazy when you're working so hard.
Okay, that's for crazy. That's fine.
Okay, so it is interesting, meeting the different personalities. Like John Bell, definitely a character in himself. Even Ihor is a little bit of a character. I remember going over to his house and he having those gravity boots, I don't know, hanging upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting to know different people, was very interesting. I say we got to go over to George Lucas's house at one point.
Why were you there?
It was something to do with Synapse and just some invitation that we had. So that was kind of, it just stuck up my mind, as far as something way back when. But I don't, it's kind of like looking across the way and say, oh, there's George. But it wasn't, like a personal invitation from George, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, those were good times as far as, creating that for that machine. I moved over to the Commodore 64 when that came out. And then I moved up to the IBM compatibles when that came out. So just always creating a lot of software.
What do you do today?
Today I'm working still. I created a software program for eBay. Well, not directly for eBay, but it's called Auction Tamer. And so I've been doing that since 1999.
Is it to help you make listings or for sniping or?
Yeah, it was originally for sniping. It was originally a watch list. So back in 1999, eBay was pretty new back then. And so, before that time, I created QuickPay for Quicken for Intuit. And so that was a big hit. And so after that one, we were able to, I took time off, went to the Caribbean, lived on a sailboat for a year, then spent 5 years in Puerto Rico, then came back. At that time, the internet has blossomed. The internet is it's no longer Prodigy and CompuServe. And eBay's out there, but they needed a way to, like a watch list. They didn't have a watch list or anything like that. So it was kind of like, oh, eBay, this is kind of cool, but I want to be able to save my things I'm looking at, and it would be kind of cool to have a real-time watch list. So I developed a browser, a tabbed browser. Back then there were nothing like a tabbed browser. And so I developed a tabbed browser with a real-time watch list at the bottom. So you can add items to this watch list that you liked on eBay. And, they had all these other auction sites. So it was, even Amazon had an auction site at that time too. And so it supported about 25 different auction sites. And so, but it was real time, so when somebody bid on something, it would, or when they bid up something, it would tell you and give you that. So that was back in 1999, 16 years ago. And so it's still being marketed and sold today. So I'm still supporting that product. Then also we're working with a South Korean company called Atomy, which is essential care products. And so they're new here in the USA, and so we're helping them introduce products into the US. So, and that I'm working with is called atomymasters.com. And so I'm doing that.
So you mentioned you still have your Atari and you fired it up. Do you still have the source code to your games on floppy somewhere?
I do. Yeah. So I was amazed that the floppies worked. I did have to rig up my Atari, had to take it apart and rig up a start key. solder two wires together and make a connecting of start a program, connect the wires together.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun, but it worked. Everything worked. It was definitely a challenge to relearn and to say, how did this work and how this. It took me a while to even figure out my Nautilus program. How do I recharge and fuel? So it was definitely like, this could have been done this differently or something like that,
Yeah, on Nautilus specifically, one of the YouTube videos, there's a German man playing it, and he couldn't figure it out. He's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
Eventually, he ran out of fuel or something.
Yeah, he always ran out of. I saw that same video, and so I wanted to see what he was talking about, and so I fired it up myself, and it's like, how do you refuel? Where's my manual for this? It shouldn't be this hard. And so then, you destroy the building, you run over the little pod that's inside the building, and that's how you refuel. It's like, okay, yeah, that's how you do it. And then those little things go across the screen and rebuild the building, and so you're just constantly dying. It's kind of like a frustration. It's like, dang.
How would you feel about releasing the source code to your games?
I don't know about that.
Your buddy Steve did it.
I don't know. I never thought about that. I know there's people that have done ports. They didn't ask permission or anything like that. For other platforms and stuff like. And so, is there a place that does that? I mean,
well,
a place that's keeping those.
One popular place to put code is just put it up on GitHub, which is a modern repository for code, and then people can learn from it, modify it, put it in, put it in their emulators, or see if they can compile it or whatever. Steve did it with Fort Apocalypse, and he's looking for the rest of his stuff. Someone recently sent me. I'll go grab it to show you. Actually, Steve recently sent me. He found in his files the original source code for Star Raiders, and
really,
which he sent to me, and I scanned. It's like 100 pages on. It's a photocopy of green bar computer paper. And so this is online now, and the Atari community has just kind of gone crazy, eating it up.
Really?
They're looking over it like, why did Doug Neubauer do it this way? Did he know you could do it this way, or is he smarter than us? Which is probably the case. And then they're talking about adding levels and changing behavior.
Yeah.
People are thrilled with it.
Huh? Yeah, my code is not the cleanest. It's pretty much a hack job, I guess. I don't know what you call it. It's definitely. I'm not. I don't. Espouse myself as like a computer genius, or I don't document my code.
It got the job done.
It got the job done.
Got the carts out. You paid.
It got me paid. It made the money.
Yeah.
It did its job, and so. But I don't spend time with documentation or saying, why did I do this? And so if I ever look back on my code, it would be, it's not the Microsoft way.
No, don't go back and read what you wrote 30 years ago. That's nobody wants to do that.
So
think about it. If you need help getting that stuff onto modern media, I have equipment to do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll. I stuffed the machine back into the closet. Back into the way back where.
Let's see. If you could send a message to the Atari community that still exists, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
Boy, whatever you're doing, just I know there's a lot of, kids out there, just follow your dreams and be innovative, whatever you do. I mean, you don't have to follow somebody else, just kind of, be a pioneer, do something different. You can do it. Just learn.
Awesome.
Not too crazy. We're always think that we need to go to college, go to get an education, to make it work, and stuff like that. But I've always been one to just make your own way, as far as learn, and do something that nobody else has done before. Be kind of like the front runner, be innovative, and I've always, nowadays, I look at things that need to be done, for example, with Intuit, and with Quicken, and saying, oh, it'd be really nice if it had a payroll package, and did payroll. So you work off somebody else's success, and you create a need that they're seeing in that product. And so, you take something that's pretty popular, like Quicken, you write a payroll module for it, and there's an instant need for it. And then they license it from you, and you do really well. Same thing with eBay. You're up and coming and pretty successful. But they needed they needed a watch list at the time, and also a sniper would be nice. And so you make a product that goes along with that, and there's a market now. And so the same thing with this Atomy business, creating software for them that works with their platform, and that helps them out. And so you just work, be innovative in that way.
Nice.
So not too earth shattering, but but it gets me by. Had a good life, still do.
Where do you live? I mean, what part of the country? You're
Up in the Seattle area.
Okay. I think that's all I need. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mike.
Hey, you're welcome. I appreciate this. I thank you for contacting me, and this is great.
If you enjoyed these interviews and would like to contribute something, I encourage you instead to donate to one of our favorite organizations, the Internet Archive, at archive.org. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit digital library with the stated mission of universal access to all knowledge. They've done incredible things to preserve computer history, including hosting thousands of programs in an in-browser Atari emulator, creating the Wayback Machine, and offering full-page scans of countless Atari computer books and magazines. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate.